You think you know this line. Let him without sin cast the first stone. We say it to mean don't judge, nobody's perfect, leave people alone. But that is not what was happening here. This was not a lesson about being nice. It was a trap, a coordinated ambush set at dawn with a human life used as bait. And the person they were really trying to destroy was not the woman on the ground. And before he ever said that famous sentence, Jesus did something no one has ever fully explained. He knelt down and he began to write in the dust. This is the true story behind those words. To understand this story, you have to understand the war being waged around the man at its center. It is early morning in Jerusalem, roughly 2,000 years ago, and the city is the beating heart of the Jewish world, crowded, watched, and living under the boot of the Roman Empire. At the center of it all stands the temple, and in its open courts, a teacher named Jesus has begun to sit at dawn, teaching anyone who will gather around him. And crowds do gather. That is exactly the problem. Because not everyone is there to learn. Standing at the edges are the scribes and the Pharisees, the most respected, most religiously precise men in the nation. They have studied the sacred law for their entire lives, and they have decided that this popular teacher is a threat to their authority, to their standing, to the whole system they control. They don't just dislike him, they want him gone. But getting rid of him is not simple. The people love him. You cannot just arrest a man the crowds adore, not without a reason, not without making him a martyr. So they need something clever. They need to trap him with his own words. They need to force him, in public, to say something that will either destroy his reputation with the people or put him on the wrong side of Roman law.
And here is the collision that makes this story so dangerous. Judea is occupied territory. Under Roman rule, the Jewish authorities are not permitted to carry out executions on their own. Only Rome can hand down a death sentence. But their ancient religious law, the law of Moses, commands death by stoning for certain sins. So there is a fault line running straight through the nation. What God's law demands and what Caesar's law allows. And the religious leaders realize something. If they can force this teacher to stand between those two laws, to publicly choose one and betray the other, he is finished either way. All they need is a case, a real, undeniable red-handed case, with a defendant no one will defend. And somewhere in that sleeping city, in the last hour before sunrise, they find exactly what they are looking for. Or rather, they arrange it. Because everyone leaning in to watch assumes this is about a sinful woman and a holy law. They are wrong. It is about a trap, and she is only the bait. Picture the scene as it actually unfolds. The sun is barely up. Jesus is sitting in the temple courts, teaching, and the people are gathered around him, close and attentive. It is, for a moment, peaceful. And then the noise arrives. A knot of men comes shoving through the crowd, the scribes and the Pharisees, and they are dragging someone with them, a woman. They force their way to the front, into the open space where everyone can see, and they throw her down into the middle of the circle, onto the stone, in front of everyone. Look at her for a moment, because the men around her never do. She is a human being, terrified, publicly humiliated, hauled through the streets at dawn and dumped in front of a crowd like an object. And she knows, she can see it in their faces, that they intend for her to die today. She has no lawyer, no advocate, no voice. She is, in that circle, utterly alone. And then they announce the charge, loudly, so the whole crowd hears it. "Teacher," they say, "this woman was caught in the act of adultery, in the very act." Now stop and listen closely, because the trap is already showing its teeth, and most people rush right past it. Caught in the very act. Think about what that actually means. If she was caught in the act, then where is the man? It takes two people to commit adultery. The law they are about to quote condemns both of them to death, equally. And yet, they have dragged only her into the light. The man has conveniently vanished. That single missing person tells you everything. This was never about justice. If they cared about the law, they would have brought the man too. They didn't. Which means this woman was almost certainly set up, used, trapped, exposed on purpose, so that these men would have a body to throw at the feet of Jesus. She is not a defendant in a fair trial. She is a weapon, and they are pointing her straight at him. Then, they spring the trap itself. In the law, they say, Moses commanded us to stone such women. So what do you say? And there it is. What do you say? Feel how airtight it is. Feel that there is no escape. Because Jesus has become famous for one thing above all: mercy. He eats with sinners. He forgives. He touches the untouchable. The whole crowd knows it. So the accusers have built a question with only two possible answers, and both of them are fatal. If he says, yes, stone her, he obeys the law of Moses, but two things shatter at once. First, his entire message of mercy collapses in an instant. The teacher of forgiveness just ordered a woman's execution, and the crowds that love him melt away. And second, far more dangerous, he has just publicly commanded an execution that only Rome is permitted to authorize. He has set himself up as a rival to Caesar's law, and the authorities can hand him straight to the Romans as a rebel.
But if he says, no, let her go, then in front of the entire crowd, the popular teacher has just contradicted the sacred law of Moses. He has told Israel that God's own commandment can be ignored. And with that, the religious leaders have all the proof they need to brand him a false teacher, a lawbreaker, a fraud, and turn the devout crowd against him overnight. Do you see it? Say stone her, and he loses his soul and gains Rome's wrath. Say free her, and he keeps his mercy, but is destroyed as a heretic. There is no third door. The men who built this trap are not fools. They are brilliant, and they are certain. They have him. They stand there, arms folded, waiting to watch him fall. This is the moment they have been planning for. And everything hangs on what this teacher will say next. And he says nothing. He does not argue. He does not defend himself. He does not even answer the question. Instead, slowly, in front of all of them, Jesus bends down. He kneels toward the stone pavement, and with his finger, he begins to write in the dust. And the whole scene stops breathing. What is he doing? Nobody knows. The accusers, thrown off, don't know whether to laugh or shout. The crowd leans in. The woman watches this stranger kneeling in the dirt beside her instead of towering over her. And something about it makes no sense. And here is one of the great unsolved mysteries of the entire Bible. The text tells us exactly what Jesus did. He stooped down and wrote on the ground with his finger. But it never tells us what he wrote. 2,000 years later, no one knows for certain. Some have wondered if he was writing the sins of the accusers themselves, name by name, so that each man looking down would suddenly see his own secrets spelled out in the dust. Others remember that the prophet Jeremiah once wrote that those who turn away from God would be written in the dust, and that the finger of God once wrote the commandments in stone. Whatever the words were, the act itself is doing something to the mood of that courtyard. The rhythm of the ambush has been broken. The men who came to control this moment have lost control of it. But they will not let it go. They keep pressing him, demanding his verdict, hammering the question again and again. What do you say? What do you say? They think his silence is weakness. They think he is trapped and stalling. And finally, Jesus straightens up.
He rises to his full height and looks at them. And he opens his mouth to give his answer, the answer they have been so sure would end him. But the sentence he speaks does not walk into either side of the trap. It does something no one in that courtyard is prepared for. In a single line, he is about to take the stone out of every hand in the circle and turn the whole trial back on the men who started it. He looks at them, and he says just one sentence. Let him who is without sin among you be the first to throw a stone at her. And then he kneels back down and goes on writing in the dust. He does not argue the point. He does not explain it. He simply lays it in the center of the circle and returns to the ground and lets it do its work.
Watch what that sentence just did, because it is a masterstroke. He did not say, "Don't stone her." He did not break the law of Moses. The law does permit witnesses to carry out the sentence. He said, "Go ahead, obey the law." But the one who begins, the one who throws first, must be a man with no sin of his own. He took the trap they built and handed it right back to them. Because now every accuser is caught in the very thing they set up. They came dragging a guilty person into the light, and now the light has swung around onto them. Each man, stone in hand, has to ask himself in front of the whole crowd, am I without sin? Can I be the one to start this? And each of them knows what he is hiding. Maybe some of them know exactly how this woman was set up. Maybe one of them knows the man who was let go. And the text gives us this extraordinary detail. One by one, they begin to walk away, beginning with the oldest. The eldest go first, the ones with the longest lives, the most memories, the most to answer for. The stones drop to the ground. Feet shuffle backward through the crowd. And the men who arrived certain they had trapped a heretic leave in silence, having trapped only themselves. And then it is quiet. The crowd parts. And when Jesus finally rises again, the whole ring of accusers is gone. He is left standing with only one person still in the circle, the woman, still on the ground, still alive. And what he says to her next is the part everyone forgets. Jesus straightens up, looks around at the empty circle, and asks her a question. Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you? And she answers, the only word she speaks in the entire story. No one, Lord. And Jesus says, neither do I condemn you. Go, and from now on, sin no more. Now look carefully, because right here is where almost everyone misunderstands this story. We hear, neither do I condemn you, and we stop, as if the whole point were that sin doesn't matter, that Jesus just waved it away, that the moral is be tolerant and don't judge. But listen to the full sentence, because it has two halves, and the power is in holding them together. First, neither do I condemn you. Here is the staggering part. Of everyone who stood in that courtyard, Jesus is the only one who actually qualifies to throw. By his own standard, the one without sin, he alone had the right. And he is the one who refuses to pick up a stone. Grace is not that no one was qualified to judge her. Grace is that the one who was qualified chose to save her instead. But then, the second half, go and sin no more. He does not pretend nothing happened. He does not tell her that her old life was fine. He names it. It was sin. And then he sends her out of it into a new one. He gives her both things at once, her life and a call to change. He does not condemn her, and he does not excuse her. He redeems her. And this is the misunderstanding, finally shattered. This was never the story about don't judge. Watch what actually happened. The accusers wanted to use the law to kill. Jesus used the truth to
to heal. They came to expose a sinner. He ended up exposing the sin in everyone holding a stone. They tried to force him to choose between mercy and justice, and instead, in one sentence, he satisfied both. Justice was served, sin was named, no one pretended otherwise, and mercy triumphed. The guilty walked away alive and free.
And remember the trap. Stone her, and he loses his mercy and defies Rome. Free her, and he defies the sacred law. He was supposed to be destroyed no matter what he said. Instead, he walked straight between the two blades, upholding the law's seriousness about sin while refusing to become an instrument of cruelty. And he came out the other side with the woman alive, the accusers silenced, and the crowd staring at a kind of authority they had never seen. Not the authority to condemn, the authority to forgive. And think about where each person now stands. The accusers walked in as judges and walked out as the judged. The woman walked in as the condemned and walked out as the forgiven. The only thing that moved either of them from one to the other was standing close enough to a holy man to see their own hearts clearly. And that is the exact place this story now puts you. So before you decide who you are in this story, understand that there are two ways to be standing in that courtyard, and Jesus speaks to both. Maybe you are the woman on the ground. Maybe you are carrying something you've been caught in, a failure, a secret, a mistake that a voice inside keeps dragging back into the light to shame you with. You already know the accusing voices. You replay them at night. If that is you, hear the sentence again, the whole of it. The one person with every right to condemn you knelt down in the dust beside you instead of towering over you and said, "Neither do I condemn you." Not pretend it never happened, not stay where you are, but you are not defined by the worst thing you've done. Get up. There is a road out. Go and sin no more. But maybe, be honest, you are somewhere in the circle with a stone in your hand. Because it is so easy to hold a rock for someone else's failure while quietly hiding your own. We love a clear villain to throw at. And Jesus does not shout you down. He just kneels in the dust and asks the one question that empties every hand. Are you without sin? Do you want to be the one who throws first? Because the miracle of this story is that everyone who stayed close to him long enough saw the truth about themselves and walked away changed. The accusers dropped their stones. The woman dropped her shame. And that same invitation is standing in front of you right now, to put the stone down, to stop hiding, and to be someone who was not condemned. And because of that, someone who finally has the freedom to change. You were never meant to spend your life either throwing stones or cowering under them. You were meant to be set free. And here is the detail that will haunt you after this video ends. We know what Jesus said. We know that every accuser dropped his stone and walked away. But we still do not know, and we never will, what he wrote in the dust. Twice he knelt and wrote, and the words were gone with the next breath of wind. Whatever they were enough to empty every hand in that courtyard. Maybe that's the point. The sins written in the dust blow away. It is only the ones we refuse to let go of that we keep carrying. If this made an old line new again, take 1 second to like and subscribe. It truly helps these stories reach the people who need to hear them tonight. And next time, a paralyzed man is lowered through a hole in a roof by 4 desperate friends. And what Jesus says to him first stuns the whole room. I'll see you there.